What if 1 minute could change everything? What if just 60 seconds could open a doorway to another reality, to another version of your life? This isn't fantasy. This isn't just motivational talk. This is the hidden science that Jacobo Grinberg spent his life exploring before he mysteriously disappeared. Jacobo was not an ordinary man. He was a neuroscientist in Mexico who dared to ask a question that most scientists avoid. What is consciousness, and can it shape the world around us? He believed the mind does more than just think. It connects to something vast, a field that holds all possibilities, a space where your reality is built and rebuilt every moment. Imagine if you could step into that field with intention, even for 1 minute, and see your life change. In this video, you are going to discover the mental frequency that can shift your reality in just 60 seconds. This isn't a quick trick or empty promise. It's a method tied to what Grinberg called the neuronal field, an invisible web where your thoughts and emotions interact with the greater fabric of existence. By the end of this video, you will understand how to access it, why just 1 minute is enough to create impact, and how to practice it every day. But here's the catch. Few people know the full story of Jacobo Grinberg. He wasn't only a researcher, he was a bridge between science and ancient wisdom. He studied shamans, healers, and mystics across Mexico, searching for proof that the mind could directly influence matter. His experiments suggested that our brains are like antennas, tuning into a universal frequency that holds the script of reality itself. And just before he could reveal more, he vanished in 1994 without a trace. No one ever found him. To this day, his disappearance remains one of the great unsolved mysteries of science. Why should you keep watching? Because what you are about to learn is not being taught in classrooms. It is not being broadcast on mainstream channels. This is knowledge hidden in the intersection of science and spirit, buried in the work of a man who risked everything to reveal the power of consciousness. The idea that your reality is not fixed but fluid, that in 1 minute, with the right mental frequency, you can begin to bend the world around you. Imagine closing your eyes tonight, letting your body fall still, and shifting your awareness to a calm, focused state. In that fragile space between waking and sleep, your mind opens like a doorway. Jacobo believed this is when your consciousness can reprogram the neuronal field. In only 60 seconds, you can imprint new patterns, new outcomes, new directions for your life. That's why what you will hear in this video is so important. Stay with me because, as we go deeper, you'll hear about the exact practice that uses this moment. You'll hear why repetition strengthens the signal, how emotion fuels the frequency, and how even small, invisible shifts can ripple outward into your daily reality. If you've ever felt stuck, trapped in cycles you can't explain, then this could be the knowledge that frees you. This isn't just theory. People who apply these principles often report sudden clarity, synchronicities that defy logic, opportunities appearing out of nowhere. These are not accidents. They are echoes of a deeper law, the law that Jacobo Grinberg devoted his life to proving. And today, you have the chance to step into that law and test it for yourself. So let me welcome you to Awakened Synchronicity, where hidden truths meet practical steps you can apply right now. If you're ready to discover how 60 seconds of focused mind can shift your entire reality, then keep watching. And before we go further, make sure you subscribe to this channel so you never miss the knowledge that could transform your life. Because what you're about to learn is not just information, it is a key that Jacobo Grinberg left behind for those brave enough to use it. And if you stay with me till the end, you'll see exactly how to turn that key and open the door to your new reality. Before we talk about the mental frequency that can shift your reality, we need to understand the man behind this powerful idea. Jacobo Grinberg was not just another scientist, he was a seeker, a bridge between two worlds. The strict, rational world of science and the mysterious, intuitive world of human consciousness. His story begins in Mexico, where he was born in 1946. From a young age, life pushed him to ask difficult questions. When Jacobo was only 12 years old, his mother died. That tragedy shook him. Instead of pulling him away from life's mysteries, it drew him closer. He wanted to know what happens beyond the surface of what we see. He wanted to understand the invisible. Jacobo studied psychology at the National Autonomous University of Mexico. He wasn't satisfied with the basic explanations about the mind that were taught in classrooms. To him, human experience was far deeper than simple chemical reactions in the brain. He saw the mind as a doorway. He believed consciousness had layers that science had not yet touched. This hunger for answers led him to create something extraordinary, the psychophysiology laboratory, where he designed experiments to test ideas that many thought were impossible. But Jacobo wasn't only interested in textbooks and laboratories. He wanted to understand reality through direct experience. That's why he went beyond the walls of universities. He traveled into rural villages, mountains, and forests. He met with shamans, healers, and indigenous teachers. He listened to their wisdom, not with blind faith, but with the curiosity of a scientist. He wanted to know if the rituals and visions described by these spiritual masters had a scientific explanation. Could it be that consciousness truly bends reality? Could it be that thought itself interacts with the world in measurable ways? As he studied both science and spirituality, Jacobo began to notice a pattern. The ancient shamans spoke about invisible fields of energy that connect all things. Modern physics was beginning to describe quantum fields that seemed strangely similar. Jacobo realized that these two worlds might not be so separate. He started building what would later become known as the Syntergic Theory. According to this theory, reality as we know it is not fixed. It is like a hologram, shaped by the brain's interaction with a deeper field he called the pre-space structure. Your mind doesn't just observe reality, it weaves it. This was a radical idea. Think about it. Most of us believe that reality exists out there, solid and unchanging. But Jacobo argued that what we call reality is more like a flexible projection, a construction born from the meeting between consciousness and the universal field. If you change your consciousness, even slightly, you change the projection. You shift the hologram. And in that shift, your life changes. This is why his work is so important for us. Because if Jacobo was right, then reality is not locked. It is not something we are trapped in. Reality responds. It moves with us. And the key to unlocking that response lies inside the mind. That is why Jacobo spent years studying altered states of consciousness, meditation, trance, the hypnagogic state just before sleep. He believed these states make the mind more flexible, more able to interact with the pre-space structure, and that is where powerful transformation becomes possible. But Jacobo's work was not just about theory. He carried out real experiments. One of the most fascinating was with shamans in Mexico. He connected them to machines that measured their brainwaves. He wanted to see if their states of consciousness could be tracked scientifically. And what he found was astonishing. Their brains entered highly synchronized patterns, almost as if they were tuning into a higher frequency. Even more incredible, sometimes two people in the same experiment would show brain activity that mirrored each other, even when they were not physically close. It was as if their minds were connecting in an invisible field. For Jacobo, this was proof that consciousness is not limited to the skull. It extends outward, it communicates, it interacts with the very fabric of the universe. And if that is true, then your thoughts, your emotions, your focus, all of these are not private. They are signals that reach into the field and shape the events of your life. But here is where the story turns mysterious. In 1994, when Jacobo was at the peak of his career, he disappeared completely. He was preparing to publish even more of his findings, but one day he simply vanished. No signs of struggle, no clear explanation. Some say He may have been silenced because his research was too disruptive. Others whisper that perhaps he discovered something so powerful that he crossed into a reality we cannot yet see. The mystery of his disappearance adds weight to his work. Feels as though he touched something enormous, something that the world was not yet ready to handle. Yet what remains is his legacy, his books, his experiments, his theories that continue to inspire seekers, scientists, and spiritual explorers alike. Jacobo Grinberg is sometimes called the Einstein of consciousness because he dared to propose that the universe is more malleable than we think. He suggested that if you could adjust your inner frequency even for a short time, you could adjust the hologram of reality itself. Now pause for a moment and imagine this through his eyes. Imagine you are Jacobo, watching brain scans light up as people enter deep states of focus. Imagine listening to shamans describe visions that match the structures you've mapped in scientific terms. Imagine realizing that consciousness is not trapped inside the head, but woven into the very design of existence. That realization changes everything, and that is the realization Jacobo wanted to share with the world. Before we move further, reflect on this, the idea that your mind is not passive, that when you think, you are not just talking to yourself, you are talking to reality, and reality listens. Jacobo's work shows us that consciousness is creative. It is not a spectator in this universe. It is an artist painting the canvas of experience. That is the true gift he left us. So when we speak about the mental frequency that can change your reality in 60 seconds, we are not inventing a fantasy. We are stepping into Jacobo's path. We are touching the edge of his theory, and while his life ended in mystery, his message remains crystal clear. Reality is fluid, and your mind holds the brush. This is why understanding Jacobo Grinberg is so essential before diving into the practice. Because once you know his story, his hunger for truth, his experiments, his discoveries, his disappearance, you begin to realize this is not just another idea floating on the internet. This is a piece of hidden science, a piece of a puzzle that connects science, spirituality, and the mystery of existence. And as you let that sink in, you prepare yourself for the deeper journey we are about to take. Jacobo Grinberg did not accept the simple idea that the mind is just a tool for perceiving the outside world. He believed something far more daring. According to him, the mind is not a passive window, it is an active creator. It constructs reality instead of simply recording it. This construction happens through what he called the neuronal field. Imagine every neuron in your brain connected not only inside your head, but also projecting outward, forming an invisible web. This web is not separate from the world, it is constantly interacting with it. For Jacobo, reality was not something given, it was something built, moment by moment, through the dynamic conversation between the neuronal field and the universe. The neuronal field, as he described it, is like a living bridge. On one side you have the electrical activity of the brain, on the other side you have a deeper informational field that holds every possibility of existence. When the neuronal field tunes into this deeper field, a hologram of reality emerges. What you see, touch, and experience is not a fixed structure. It is the projection created from this interaction, and if the neuronal field changes its pattern, the projection of reality changes with it. This bold idea became the foundation of what Jacobo later named the Syntergic Theory. Syntergy is the dynamic process of weaving. It is the interaction between consciousness and what he called the pre-space structure, also known as the lattice. Think of the lattice as a universal network, an invisible web of pure information. Everything that exists, every event that could happen, every potential path of life already lives in this lattice. But it needs the neuronal field to give it form. Without consciousness interacting with it, the lattice is pure possibility. With consciousness, it becomes experience. On platforms like Wikipedia, his theory is described as a holographic model of consciousness. On forums like Reddit, people discuss it with awe, linking it to ideas in quantum physics and mysticism. Some compare the pre-space structure to the Akashic records, a timeless library of existence. Others see it as similar to the unified field in physics, where all forces of nature merge into one. However you name it, Jacobo insisted that the lattice is real, and our minds are constantly shaping it into the world we know. Now, if the brain creates reality by interfacing with the lattice, then the key question is, what determines the shape of that reality? This is where frequency enters the picture. Just like a radio tunes into stations, the neuronal field tunes into different levels of the lattice. Your mental frequency, the rhythm of your thoughts, emotions, and focus, acts as the tuner. When your frequency is chaotic, the projection of your life feels chaotic. When your frequency is calm, clear, and focused, the projection aligns into harmony. Change the frequency, and you change the world you experience. Jacobo pointed out that frequency is not just an abstract idea. It can be measured in brain waves alpha, beta, theta, delta. Each state of consciousness corresponds to a unique vibration. In states of deep relaxation, the brain produces slower waves and the neuronal field becomes more sensitive to the lattice. In states of stress and distraction, the brain fires rapidly and the connection weakens. This is why many traditions across cultures, meditation, chanting, breathing, focus on slowing the mind. They are not simply calming practices. They are tools to shift frequency, and in doing so, they change the shape of reality itself. One of the most fascinating windows into this process is the hypnagogic moment, the fragile phase just before sleep. Jacobo was deeply interested in this state. The body relaxes, the conscious mind begins to fade, and the subconscious rises. Brain activity shifts into slower rhythms, creating a unique openness. In this brief passage, the neuronal field is highly receptive. The barriers between thought and reality thin. It is in this moment that new information can be imprinted most easily into the lattice. Think about it. Every night, just before you fall asleep, you pass through this gateway. Most people drift through it, unconsciously, carrying the stress of the day, replaying worries, and allowing random thoughts to seed their reality. But Jacobo suggested that if you enter this state intentionally, even for 60 seconds, you can plant new seeds into the field. The lattice responds to the frequency you bring into this moment. A calm, focused, emotionally charged thought sent into the neuronal field at this time does not simply vanish. It ripples. It organizes. It begins to form the hologram of tomorrow's reality. This is why repetition matters. Every night you enter the hypnagogic state, you have a chance to tune your frequency and align with the reality you desire. Do it once, and the signal is sent. Do it many times, and the signal strengthens, reshaping the hologram with greater stability. Jacobo's research suggested that the mind is not just a personal tool, but a universal one. When you change your frequency, you are not only shifting your private thoughts, you are interacting with the lattice that connects all beings and all events. What makes this even more striking is that Jacobo observed synchrony between individuals in his experiments. Two people, separated in space, could show correlated brain patterns when focused together. It was as if their neuronal fields were resonating through the lattice, bypassing physical distance. This implies that the frequency you hold does not just affect your own reality, but can ripple outward, influencing others, shaping relationships, and weaving collective experience. The hypnagogic moment, then, becomes more than a nightly routine. It becomes a sacred practice. In those 60 seconds of openness, your thoughts carry unusual weight. Your emotions act like fuel, amplifying the signal of your neuronal field. Imagine lying in bed, your body melting into rest, your mind holding a single clear image, a single powerful feeling. In that moment, you are not dreaming. You are programming. You are tuning your frequency to a new channel in the lattice. And when you wake, reality begins to rearrange itself to match the signal you broadcast. Jacobo's work shows us that consciousness is not trapped inside the skull. It is not limited to neurons firing in the dark. It is expansive. It is creative. It is in dialogue with a universal structure that holds infinite potential. And by learning to shift our mental frequency, especially during the hypnagogic state, we gain the power to step into a different version of life. This is not metaphor. It is the living essence of the Syntergic Theory, a map left behind by a man who vanished, but whose ideas continue to ripple through those who dare to listen. There is a moment each night that most people overlook, a moment so small it almost feels invisible. But for Jacobo Grinberg, this was the key. He believed that in just 60 seconds, when the mind is quiet and the body is ready to let go, you can step into the neuronal field with clarity and plant the seeds of a new reality. He called attention to the hypnagogic state, that fragile passage between waking and sleep, when consciousness is still awake but already softening, and the subconscious begins to open. This is where the 60-second practice begins. The practice itself is simple, yet powerful. As you lie down to rest, you do not immediately let your mind wander. You allow your breath to slow. You relax each muscle as if melting into the bed. Your eyes close, but instead of drifting away, you hold your awareness steady. For 60 seconds, you focus silently on a single image, a single idea, or a single emotion that represents the reality you want to experience. It may be a vision of yourself healthy, successful, at peace, or surrounded by love. It may be the quiet feeling of gratitude for something you have not yet received, but already claim as yours. The point is not to think about it with words, but to feel it, to see it, to let it become vivid in your inner world. In those 60 seconds, nothing else exists. Only the image, only the feeling, only the frequency you want to carry into the lattice. Why does this work? Jacobo explained that during this transitional state, the subconscious mind is more accessible than at any other time of day. The conscious mind, which usually doubts, questions, and interrupts, is fading. The subconscious, which stores beliefs and patterns, is wide open. In this openness, the neuronal field is sensitive, like a freshly prepared canvas waiting for the first stroke of paint. What you place into it in this moment enters without resistance. The subconscious does not argue. It does not ask whether it is possible or realistic. It simply receives. And once received, it begins to shape the patterns of your experience. This is why 60 seconds can be enough, because it is not about time. It is about timing. Imagine your subconscious as a fertile soil. During the day, it is covered with noise, distractions, and hardened layers of thought. But at night, just before sleep, the soil softens. It opens, for seeds. If you scatter worries or fears in that moment, they take root quickly. But if you plant a clear, positive seed, the soil accepts it with the same readiness. That is the secret, Jacobo pointed out. The quality of your last thought before sleep influences the quality of your waking reality. Now, a single seed can sprout, but a garden requires repetition. This is where resonance comes in. Jacobo emphasized that repeating this nightly focus is not just a ritual, it is a way of training the neuronal field. Each time you practice, you strengthen the pattern. The brain begins to rewire itself, aligning neural networks with the chosen frequency. Just as a tuning fork, when struck repeatedly, sets the air around it vibrating at its pitch, your repeated focus sets your neuronal field vibrating in harmony with the image you hold. Over time, this resonance grows stronger, and the projection of reality begins to shift. Modern science supports this in subtle ways. Neuroplasticity shows that repeated thought patterns carve new pathways in the brain. The more often you focus on a certain vision, the easier it becomes for your brain to sustain that vision. Old patterns of fear or doubt begin to weaken. New patterns of confidence and clarity take their place. On platforms like Lunar Notes, people share that when they repeat affirmations or focused images daily, they feel their energy shift. Their outer world begins to echo their inner frequency. Jacobo's theory explains this as resonance with the lattice, the pre-space field that responds to the signals of consciousness. And what happens when the resonance is set? Real-life effects begin to appear, often in ways that feel mysterious at first. Small shifts show up in daily life. You wake with sudden intuition, knowing what decision to make without hesitation. You meet someone who offers exactly the opportunity you were seeking. Circumstances rearrange themselves in ways that seem almost too precise to be coincidence. These are the ripples of the neuronal field, adjusting its projection. The lattice reorganizes, and reality begins to match the frequency you have been broadcasting. People who experiment with this 60-second practice often describe a sense of flow. Life feels less like a struggle and more like a current, carrying them forward. Instead of forcing outcomes, they notice synchronicities, those meaningful coincidences that Jacobo himself studied carefully. A conversation overheard at the right time, a book falling open to the perfect page, a chance encounter that shifts everything. These are not random. They are signs that the neuronal field is aligning with the patterns planted during those 60 seconds of nightly focus. The power of this practice lies in its simplicity. It does not require hours of meditation, complicated rituals, or special tools. It requires only a minute of intention, repeated consistently. Yet, behind this simplicity lies the profound depth of Jacobo's Syntergic Theory. When you practice, you are not just calming your mind. You are entering a dialogue with the lattice, reshaping the hologram of your reality. The neuronal field acts as translator, taking your focused image and weaving it into the structure of existence. Think of the practice like striking a note on a piano. One note played once fades quickly, but play it every night, and the vibration lingers. Soon the entire instrument hums with resonance. That is how the neuronal field responds to repetition. With each session, the frequency grows stronger, clearer, more stable, and with stability comes transformation. Many dismiss the idea because it feels too easy. How could 60 seconds change a life? But Jacobo's insight was that reality is not built on size or effort, but on resonance. A small vibration repeated in harmony can move great structures. The same way a single voice can shatter glass at the right pitch, a single focused image, repeated nightly, can shatter the barriers between you and the life you want. So each night, as you lie down, you are faced with a choice. Let your mind drift into random noise or take 60 seconds to broadcast a signal of clarity. Let your neuronal field project confusion or tune it deliberately to a new frequency. Over time, the choice you make in that fragile minute will shape not only your dreams but also your waking reality. Jacobo Grinberg's disappearance left many questions unanswered, but his 60-second practice remains a clear and simple key. It shows us that consciousness is not powerless. It is creative. It is the sculptor of experience. And through this small nightly ritual, anyone can begin to prove it to themselves. Each repetition is a stroke of the brush, painting a new hologram on the canvas of the lattice. Each focus is a note in the song of resonance, calling forth a different reality, and as the ripples spread, life begins to unfold in ways that feel both extraordinary and natural, because the extraordinary has always been woven into the fabric of the ordinary. All it takes is 60 seconds to see it. So in the end, it all comes back to something simple. 60 seconds, just 1 minute of focused mind before sleep. That's all it takes to begin shifting the frequency of your reality. Jacobo Grinberg showed us that the mind does not just watch life unfold, it helps create it. And by using this small practice, you can step into that creative power tonight. Try it for yourself. Take 1 quiet minute before you fall asleep. Hold your vision, feel it as real. Let the field respond, and watch how your world begins to change. If you found this video valuable, make sure to give it a like, share it with someone who needs this, and subscribe to Awaken Synchronicity for more insights into the hidden power of consciousness. Your support helps us bring you more of Jacobo Grinberg's wisdom, and together we can awaken the synchronicities waiting in our lives.